I'm live, and let me get live on Insta. Waiting for it to pop up. There we go. Okay. They got this new landscape versus portrait setting, and now when you're on a portrait, it's like it looks like that. Like your face is all up in it. I sit back here. I probably need to sit back here because, like, when you got like the port, yeah. See, I'm looking at it on Instagram right now. It's like it's all up in here. But anyway, so first, I want to tell you what today's stream is not. Now, I have noticed in this last, I just said it on Twitter, I'm starting to wonder if November is now crash out month because I've noticed people are crashing out like all over, all kind of crash outs. And I'm talking about every sphere of life. And I'm seeing people that I have followed for years on Twitter, just like some people crashing out, is just crashing out. So I decided I am not going to do a live stream today about that. There's been three big stories in the news this week, and I don't want to talk about none of them. Obviously, the biggest story in comic world this week has been, but it's not really comic world, it's more pop culture, has been Sydney Sweeney. But the reason it tied into comic world is because Ruby Rose, who infamously played Batwoman on CW, criticized her. But I'm like, I don't want to talk about that because that's another actor, attacking another one, and I don't want to get into that. Okay, just whatever. And then who else crashed out this week? Millie Bobby Brown was on some type of press tour, and she was somewhere, but they were taking pictures of her, and one of the photographers told her to smile, and she got all mad. She said, "You smile," and stomped on. Folks is crashing out. Then that whole Sydney Sweeney thing where she was being interviewed, and the interviewer was trying to push her into comments or war or something that she didn't even mean about her jeans commercial and all this different kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm tired of all of that. I'm tired of all of that. And I'm like, I ain't talking about that today because I ain't had enough of that. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about what comics mean to me. What comics mean to me. Now, those of you that have followed me a long time, you might know, but in case I've never spelled it out, in case I've never articulated it, why I love comic books so much and why I am such an advocate of reading them and all different kind of stuff, I thought I would spell it out today. Because I don't know if I've ever talked about that on a live stream or not. I know I've alluded to it, but I don't know if I've ever directly addressed it. Oh, that was the other story. Grace Randolph. Grace Randolph went off on Brie Larson and said she's going to take the movie. I'm done with all that. Okay, anyway. So we're going to talk about a more pleasant subject. We're going to talk about what comic books mean to me. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how comic books are educational. Maybe if I could spell, that's kind of ironic that I misspelled that word, isn't it? Let me try it again. Comics are educational. Okay. That was really funny. I misspelled educational. You learn words, you learn vocabulary, you learn about different places in the world. You learn stuff that you didn't know when politics and things get involved. I was working with some children the other day, and I said, "That is the president of the United States." And one of them looked at me and said, "Mr. Taylor, I don't know what you're talking about. What is president of the United States?" And so I had to go through that. And when Superman or Batman talks about it, when they're talking about things having to do with the country or whatever, it's a good opportunity to strike up conversation and the vocabulary. Okay, I learned how to read on three things. I learned how to read on comic books, the Bible, and newspapers. And my father was the one that introduced me to all three. And you really, really broaden your vocabulary when you read comic books. You'll learn words and learn meanings and learn things that you haven't seen before. Okay, and that's worth it. And that's what helps the young mind develop. Okay, if you didn't know it, children whose parents talk to them a lot develop faster and better. See, you can't be starved of stimulus when you're a baby. You got to be held, you got to be touched, got to be loved, and you have to be talked to. And when you talk to your child, that vocabulary grows and just everything pops off better. And there's no better way to do that than over reading comic books, because you got words, you got pictures, you got action, you got adventure, you got all kind of stuff going on. And then you'd be amazed at the way kids interpret the stuff that they see in there. And it's a great ground for great conversation. And when the comics are labeled like they're supposed to be, you don't have to worry about any surprises. What I mean by that is when the content is age appropriate and you know that it is, then you don't have to be worried about any surprises as you turn the pages or whatever. You can just enjoy the story. Okay? And the kids will be mesmerized. It's very educational. Okay? And second thing comics are to me is they are, put it on the screen. Let me see if I can spell this one. I just got through talking about education. They are very inspirational. What does it mean? What does that mean, inspirational? That means when you see these fictional characters doing what's right, it inspires something in you. That's why it's so important. That's why you hear me rail so much about how when they ruin characters, when they don't understand characters, where their whole vibe is based on their heart, based on their moral center, based on their values. That would be Superman. That would be Captain America, especially the MCU Chris Evans version, because they put a point of emphasis on that. That would be Billy Batson as Captain Marvel. When you have people, that would be Barry Allen as the Flash, but all the Flashes, Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West. Maybe not Bart, maybe Bart, but at least the main three, at least Jay, Barry, and Wally. Because the Flashes have always been crime fighters because they love to help people and they love to serve people. And the Flashes have always served with a smile. The Flashes love their powers, they love being speedsters, and they love helping people, and they always help with a smile. That's very inspirational. Okay? And so when you see that, and a little kids see that, when you're introduced to that as a child, and you see people doing, you see these fictional characters, but they're doing good things. They're doing good for the sake of humanity. They're doing good because it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite covers that kind of illustrates what I'm talking about. So let me pull that up, and you'll see what I mean. Here it comes. Right here. Look at that. Look at that. I love this cover. Now, see if I can blow it up just a little bit. Oh, no, wait. I don't know if that did any good. But anyway, if you look at the cover, you can see that everybody's smiling at Superman. You can see Superman's shadow. Let me see if I can move me out the way, if you can see that better. You can see Superman's shadow, and you can see the citizens of Metropolis, all different ethnicities, walks of life. And right in the middle is that little girl with the S shirt on, and she's got the Superman pose. And Superman's flying over, and everybody's looking up and they're smiling. That's the way superheroes are supposed to make you feel. At least certain superheroes. I know Wolverine doesn't get those feelings, but I'm saying some superheroes, they're just inspirational. They just make you want to do right because they do right. And no heroes represent that better than, like I said, Superman, Captain Marvel, Shazam, like Carol Danvers, Billy Batson, and Captain America, particularly the MCU version, because the MCU version, Steve Rogers, every movie he made a point of talking about doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do and for no other reason. Okay? That will inspire the best in people. It's supposed to. That's the power of comic books. That's what I'm trying to tell you, why they mean so much to me, because you can do so much with that. That can impact so many lives. Okay. So that's inspiration. Next up, comics are aspirational. Okay, what's the difference between inspire and to aspire? Uh, Not a lot, except maybe I'll say a plan, because inspiring something maybe can spark a desire. But to aspire, you normally have a plan where you say, I'm going to do this in these many steps or by this date or whatever. So comic books can also be aspirational in the sense of you actually make a plan. And it's not just comic books. A lot of people have talked about, a lot of women, for example, have talked about they went into detective work and they went into the sciences because of Dana Scully on the X Files. And a lot of people have talked about going into NASA, the space program, because of Star Trek. So it's not just superheroes, but I'm saying superheroes in concept and principle are a focal point for that type of aspirational impact. Okay, they're a focal point to help you make a plan to say, when I grow up and when I get here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to aspire. Okay, because inspire, again, lights the fuse, lights the desire, but to aspire means I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to aspire to be like this character. When I see, just like I just posted on Twitter, those panels, I think it was, where was it? I forgot. I know it was Frank Quietly art. Anyway, where Superman saved that girl from committing suicide. Let me pull that up since I'm talking about it. And she was about to end herself and jump off a building, and all of a sudden, the Man of Steel shows up and tells her that she's stronger than she thinks she is, and here it is, and that life is worth living. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up. Okay, there it is. So, all right, let me disappear me, maybe make that bigger, right? So she's about to end it all. All of a sudden, Superman is there and tells her that she's stronger than she thinks she is. And she just grabs him and hugs him. See, see, that's inspirational, but that's also aspirational. I want to be the kind of person that gives people a reason to keep on living, gives people a reason to think things aren't as bad as they seem, or that they can get better, or that you don't want to throw away your future because of your present. Because we've all been in places and spaces in our lives, and I don't care how young or old you are, where your now wasn't everything that you wanted it to be. When that happens, you have to have somebody come along and show you the not yet, that there are better days ahead and you can actually build towards better days. And see? And so when someone saves your life like this, it makes you want to live. It makes you aspire to live. It's like Superman cared enough about me to stop me from ending myself. And then there's a great push many times to pay that forward. See, all that is in comic books. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The comic books are awesome. And this is a focal point for superheroes. Okay. So let me show you what else comic books are. Put that on the screen. Comic books are escapist fantasy. Now they've always dealt with, heavy issues and real world issues, and they've always been political, but sometimes you just need to get away. Sometimes whatever's going on in your life, it don't have to be bad. You can just be tired. And sometimes you just need a break. Okay? And nothing does that like a good comic book, a good way to kind of skip out of whatever's going on in your life and step into the imaginary story world found in the pages. And and then when you have heroes that have deep mythology, because Marvel heroes were always rooted in the real world. So most of them showed up in New York. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, they're all in actual New York. But DC heroes always have fictional series that are modeled after real cities. And so, but when you have strong enough mythology, then the cities themselves become characters. Like you can't tell me Gotham's not a character in Batman's world because it is. You can't tell me Metropolis is not a character in Superman's world, and then a Paradise Island, Themyscira, and Wonder Woman's world, and all that. You can't tell me that stuff doesn't make a difference because it does. So escapist fantasy is another good aspect of comic books because sometimes, like I said, even if you're loving what you're doing and even if you're loving life and loving where you are, sometimes you need a break. And so I'm all for comics tackling real world issues sometimes and tackling heavy issues sometimes, but sometimes they just need to be fun romps in fantasy land. It's psychologically good for your mental health to just let your mind, roam and wonder and enjoy the wonder. And that's the thing. That's one of the things, if you've noticed, that's been missing from a lot of comic book movies. If we have to go all the way back to Superman 1978, Superman the movie, to give you a prime example of a movie that had wonder, that had a sense of awe, a sense of wow while you were watching it. And the tagline was, "You will believe that a man can fly." So let me pull up that poster. Because what I must say is that Richard Donner delivered on his promise. Chris Reeve was a pilot in real life, so he understood aerodynamics. He knew how to arc his body on the wires to make it look like he was really flying. So he was acting, he was using physical acting even in the flying. And so, but there was just such an awesome, yes, I'm going to pull up that comment. Yes, there was such an awesome sense of wonder in the movie. And so that's one of the things I've noticed that's been missing from a lot of superhero fare. It's not like, and people wonder why, but the studios wonder why people are kind of tired of going to the theaters because not like we can't have heavy stories, it's not like we can't have stakes, but everything is not supposed to be such a downer all the time. Now, you've heard me say it many, many times, but the last time we had anything uh, remotely resembling a happy ending in the MCU was the first Avengers movie. Okay? The first Avengers movie. That's the last time we had an ending that was a relatively happy ending. Okay? Let me pull up the shawarma picture where they're over there eating shawarma. And Tony said that, that is the last time in the Avengers saga we had a happy ending. It really was. It was the last time. Every movie after that, the endings got worse and worse. Quicksilver died at the end of Ultron. Wanda went crazy at the beginning of Wanda going crazy. Nothing good happened. They were in jail at the end of Civil War, and Tony and Cap had a wedge between them, and blah, 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 blah. And comic books and comic book mediums are supposed to give you some type of escapist fantasy. They're supposed to give you a chance to jump into another world for a while and just kind of walk around and lose yourself and enjoy yourself. What's wrong with that? But so much of that is missing now. So much of that is missing now until things are more brutal, more gritty, more and more dark, more heavy, all that. And it's like that's the only tone now that people seem to want to use. And comics can offer so much more than that. So one of the Again, one of the things is escapist fantasy. Now I'm going to pull up this next one. One of the things that comic books could be is wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment. Okay? Wish fulfillment. And I'm going to show you an example of a character who is literally built on wish fulfillment in so many different ways. Let me see if I can find a picture that I like that will convey the essence of what I'm talking about. Maybe this one will. So let me pull this up. Oh no, too small. I knew that was too small. Let's try this one. Yeah, that one's bigger. Okay, here we go. And that character is one of my favorite characters of all time, Captain Marvel. Why is Captain Marvel wish fulfillment? Because you get to skip from being 10 or 12 years old to being grown. No teenage angst. Wouldn't that be cool? Captain Marvel is not an adult body with a kid's mind. It's not Big with superpowers. The movie Big with Tom Hanks, that is not who Captain Marvel is. That's who recent writers have thought he was, especially since the New 52. But that is actually not who Cap is. Cap is actually Billy at the age of 30. So you see, you got Billy Batson on the right as a kid, 12 years old. This is also Billy as an adult, but that body is endowed with the six entities that the wizard Shazam gave him: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. That's still Billy as a grown man. Wouldn't it be cool to skip everything in the middle and just go from being 12 to being grown with a magic word? Wouldn't it be cool to live in both worlds where you can go back and enjoy some childhood stuff and be grown? Wouldn't that be so cool? And then, of course, everything about superheroes is about the powers. Because let me tell you something, all human beings want more power than we have. Okay? All human beings want more power than we have. So one of the things that comic books provide is we have those fantasy worlds where we can see what would that be like. That's why they're so cool. That's why they're so engaging. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. There's nothing wrong with any of that. And that's one of the benefits of reading them. So that's why I'm always encouraging people to read them and read them to your children. And if you work with children, read them and show them how to check them out in the library and get them for free and read them. But if you want to stay on the positive side, you are pretty much going to have to go through, I would say, Silver Age and Bronze Age stuff. Because Golden Age was rough. Golden Age was a lot harsher than most people would understand unless you study comics history. Silver Age was goofy, and Bronze Age was turning a little bit more into realism, but not to the extreme. After Bronze Age, we had the Dark Age, which was kicked off by The Dark Knight Returns, Batman with Frank Miller, and then comics just went dark, 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 dark after that, and they've never really come back. And Watchmen, Alan Moore, they've never really come back from that. So if you want to find some good places to read to little kids, you want to go Silver Age, which is just pure goofiness, just goofy stories, okay? Especially on the DC side, just pure goofiness, and Bronze Age, okay? So that would be cool. Let me show you what else I'm talking about. Then I'll put some comments on the screen. Another benefit, another reason comics mean so much to me, another thing I recommend them all the time is because of this right here. It's because of creativity. Okay. One of the reasons that I love comic books, I love the costumes, I love the secret identities, I love the transformation sequences. I love when Clark does the shirt rip and he comes out of his Clark Kent persona and turns into Superman. That is always cool. I heard some people say that, Batman doesn't have a transformation sequence. Yes, he does. You can see it in Batman 89 when he puts on his costume a piece at a time. You can see it in the movies. Belt, shield, cape, in the Danny Elfman score. But Captain Marvel has the coolest one when Billy Batson hollers Shazam. The lightning comes down and he turns from Billy into Cap. That just does something to me. It always has. And so it sparks your own creativity. Those of you that are writers and those of you that just like to dream, those of you that are dreamers, nothing will help spark that creativity like comic books. Just nothing. So that's what I wanted to talk about today because, like I said, there's so much drama crashing out this week. I did not want to deal with that. So let me put these comments on the screen and we'll be out. Now, I'm going to be out from live streaming probably the next 2 weeks. Next week is my birthday week, so I won't be on. And then the week after that is Thanksgiving, and I'm going to have some family in town, so I won't be on then either. So I'm going to be out for at least 2 weeks. So after today, I'll be out for the rest of November. So I just wanted to come on today and get this one in because I'll be taking a break after today. Okay. Eric says some characters like Captain Marvel, Green Lantern, Thor are a great wish fulfillment. That's right. That's right. Captain Marvel, I talked about what makes Green Lantern such a powerful character is that Green Lantern is literally about imagination and will. Being a Green Lantern is about you coming up with constructs, which you dream up in your mind, and then having the will to make green plasma sculptures out of that green will energy. You have to be creative to do that. See? And Thor, now I personally like the original incarnation of Marvel's Thor where he was Donald Blake. And he didn't remember that he was Odin's son. And he found the hammer. And so he spent, he was impaired, walked with a cane in his regular life, and then struck his cane and turned into Thor. I personally like that. Because again, I love transformation sequences. And I love the balance between the two personas, but he's just Thor all the time now. So, but how cool would that be? Freddie Freeman does that too. Freddie Freeman is walks with crutches when he's regular, but when he gets powered up, he becomes super powered and he can run around and do everything that Captain Marvel can do. He's Captain Marvel Jr. How cool is that? How cool would that be? Okay, which is Eric's next comment, meaning gives you the fantasy of how cool would this be? That's right. That's right. See, sometimes your mind needs that. Sometimes your mind has got to get off your troubles and just think about some cool stuff. Nothing does that like comics. Okay. Captain Marvel's not big with superpowers. No, he is not. I'm going to say it. I feel like I say it every week now. Captain Marvel's not big with superpowers. No, he's not. No, he's not. Captain Marvel is Billy Batson as an adult. That's why he's such a unique character. Because can you imagine getting to be your 12-year-old self and your 30-year-old self like in the same life? It's like with one magic word, you switch back and forth between the two. What would that be like? Okay, you'd have problems on, student-teacher conference days, because both of y'all couldn't show up. But, that would be a fun adventure too. But anyway, so yeah. I see you say happy pre-birthday. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. So yeah, so like I said, what I want to talk about today, because there's so much drama and crashing out, I don't want to talk about that. So what I talked about today was what comics mean to me. They are educational. They are inspirational. They are aspirational. They give you escapist fantasy. They give you wish fulfillment. And they help stimulate your own creativity. There's nothing wrong with any of that. All those are positive things. So that's why I recommend them so. That's why I still love them so, even as an adult. That's why I still recommend them to your children. But like I said, I would stick with Silver Age and Bronze Age for kids. We don't want to get too much past 1986, and we definitely don't want to get into the Ultimates universe, because the Ultimates universe was dark and perverse in every way you can think of. So we don't want to go there. But we do want to just enjoy them in time periods where enjoyment was possible. Okay, so that's it for me today. Short stream today. Just wanted to come on and say that. Like I said, just didn't want to feed into all the other stuff. So like I said, I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks. Next week is my birthday week. I won't be on then. Week after that is Thanksgiving. I won't be on then. So I'll be out for the rest of November. But when I do but I'll still be on Twitter. So I'll still be around. I just won't be doing a live stream. And then next time I'm going to live stream, I will let everybody know. Okay? Thanks so much. Go out and buy some comic books today. Read some comic books today. I've made my own comic books. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And then I'm launching a new one real soon here. So I'm going to need your help. So stay tuned to my channel so we can all check that out. All right? That's it for me today. DT2 Comics Chat out.